Here is your meal. I title it The Northern Lights. You see, when I was a boy,
Actually, I think I'm just gonna eat it. Thanks.
You're just gonna eat it?
Yeah.
Well, I had this whole story. It was a great character moment for me.
No thanks. It looks good, though.
Well, I hope you enjoy it, because it will be your last.
Oh, that's very ominous. Why would you say something so ominous?
The sandwich, much like your soul, is poisoned.
What? Why would you even tell me that? I'm just not gonna eat it.
Yes, you will. Because if you don't, I'm gonna shoot you. Do you know why I invited you here?
Nope.
My favorite movie in the whole world was The Menu. And then you had to go and make a silly YouTube review exposing all of its flaws. You ruined it for me.
Silly? I mean, that's a little rude. That's beneath you. Ooh, you can really feel the poison going down. Recently, I watched Searchlight Pictures' The Menu, a psychological and torture horror comedy from director Mark Mylod, and I immensely enjoyed every minute of it. In a nutshell, it follows a young man and his female escort who visit a remote island for an exclusive dining experience, only to find out that all of them are doomed to die at the hands of the psychopathic Chef Slowik, played by Ray Fiennes. Despite the protagonist being the young escort Margot, who is played by Anya Taylor-Joy, the true star of the film is Fiennes and his sinister portrayal of a demented cynic who has lost hope in humanity. Society has crushed his dreams and stripped him of his passion for cooking, giving him the desire to destroy the people who caused these things to happen to him. These people include a food critic who claims to have put him on the map with her review and her sniveling assistant, 2 loyal customers who care only about the elegance and esteem of the dinner, not of the food itself, 3 cocky employees of the restaurant's angel investor, and Slovik's obsessed fan Tyler, played by Nicholas Hoult, who deeply worships Slowik and his art form. These guests were handpicked by Slowik for him to exact his revenge, and throughout the movie, we learn that their punishment is somewhat deserved, as they've all committed sins and led Slowik to his self-destruction. But among this group, there are 2 characters who take Slovik's character from being cynical to downright hysterical, and his motivations for hating them, for me at least, ruin his relatability. In this video, I want to take a look at how to create a sympathetic villain and how The Menu nearly does this, but has a fatal crucial flaw. First off, I loved most aspects of this movie. The visuals, the writing, the performances, especially from Fiennes and Hoult. Hoult's obsessive enjoyment of the events of the movie contrasts perfectly and comedically with the rest of the cast's horror, making him hilariously oblivious.
You too.
And Fiennes' portrayal of Slowik as a destroyed artist who has sold his soul and is at the end of his rope is wonderful. The monologues he delivers during each course are even better on rewatch, as they foreshadow his insanity and the dark deeds he is about to enact. Interestingly, Tyler's emotional reaction to Slovik's explanation of the first course makes much more sense when we learn that Tyler knew from the beginning that everyone would die. Spoilers, by the way. Throughout the story, we learn that Slowik was driven towards this by different forces of society. The critics that put him up on a pedestal just to have the power to knock him down when they choose, an angel investor that if left unsatisfied with Slovik's works can end his business and livelihood, leaving his means of creating art always in the hands of another. The unappreciative public who view him as nothing more than another narcissistic chef, but whose patronage Slowik must rely upon, and the obsession of cultured fans who idolize Slowik and his food unendingly. These people have, let's say, taken all the joy out of cooking, a joy that Slowik experienced as a young fry cook in a greasy burger joint serving up fried goods to the masses. No cares, no worries, no stress, simply food that made people happy. Now he has become embittered and, frankly, murderous. We've all experienced the bog of being weighed down by reality and the controlling forces in our lives that decide our fate and ruin the dreams we made for ourselves. His backstory is one that draws an audience closer, and, to some degree, allows us to find solace in his evil actions. And that's a good thing. An antagonist with morals and flaws and some humanity can make a character arc or potential redemption much stronger. However, his motivations are not all so reasonable. His opinions veer in a frustratingly non-universal, almost alienating direction. And it starts with the final table of guests I haven't mentioned yet, whose inclusion is, in my opinion, some of the pettiest nonsense I've ever heard. Those characters are John Leguizamo's character, who I'll refer to as Actor Guy, and his assistant Felicity. These two originally have no particular connection to Chef Slowik, and their appearance in the dinner party is wildly out of place compared to Slovik's anointed foes. After Actor Guy asks Slowik directly what role he plays in being there, Slowik responds that Actor Guy is here because he didn't like his movie, and for that he must die. Yeah, that's it. Slowik saw his movie Calling Dr. Sunshine on his one day off in months, and it being a heartless, cheesy money grubber of a movie, it ruined Slovik's only day of relaxation. That may be an experience that has upset all of us, like having our vacation rained out or our day off cut short by an unexpected accident. But to go so far as to condemn the actor, not even the director of the movie, to death over it screams way louder and way more awry than forces which bind and strangle you and your art for years. The one conclusion that the chef attributes to Actor Guy's inclusion is that he sold his soul for movie money. He knowingly made something that claimed to be art, but was instead a tool for greed. He did not give, he took.
You're an eater, you're a taker. Like all the rest.
That message seems reasonable, but it ruins that connection we made to the chef and his grief. Before, his anger was more personal. Now it seems to be vented towards any and all who disagree with him. It would be more understandable that he uses his cynicism as a vehicle for revenge, not as a gavel of judgment on practically unrelated parties. But as uncharacteristic as this was for Slowik, it may be nowhere near as egregious as the assistant's fate. Felicity was given this reasoning for her inclusion.
What school did you go to?
Brown?
Student loans?
No.
I'm sorry, you're dying.
What? So she had financial help in going to an Ivy League school? This is reason enough for her utter demise? With this exchange, Slowik's guise of being a heartbroken artist is shattered by the reality that he is simply prejudiced. Prejudiced against the upper class and the advantages that accompany it. This undermines his whole motivation. He's not doing all of this torturing, pain, and murder to enact revenge, or even as a statement of art. He's doing it as an act of prejudice. This woman in particular has not even proven to have done anything deliberately evil. She's merely a product of the system she was born into. The complete lack of justification for this character's inclusion is enough to throw away all pretense of knowing why Slowik is killing these people. It transforms him into a somewhat one-dimensional antagonist, someone who wants the world to burn just for the sake of it. This small change from a personal experience to a prejudiced worldview removes audiences from being able to connect to Slowik, since a personal experience is warranted, but prejudices against people you don't know is not. To find two examples of this, we can turn to the MCU, which has an endless supply of villains, some weak and some pretty good. Guardians of the Galaxy supplies one of the most bland bad guys, Ronan the Accuser, a radical zealot who wants to blow up an entire planet because he doesn't like them. With a character like this, who desires nothing but mindless violence on the basis of religious or cultural opposition, an audience has nothing to grab onto, nothing to connect with. Unless the audience is also racist against an imaginary alien race. Compare this to the villain from Captain America: Civil War. Zemo is a former intelligence officer and aristocrat whose family was killed during a battle that the Avengers caused. Because of this, Zemo wants to destroy the Avengers and avenge his own family. By giving Zemo this backstory and humanity for his actions, it not only makes him a better character to sympathize with, but it also makes us question the morals of our protagonists, who are villains in Zemo's mind. It makes us see the events of our heroes from another perspective, and the audience might even question itself. Am I rooting for the right person? Are the actions of my heroes moral? As a movie maker and artist, you want to establish these questions and challenge the people watching your movie. When you don't handle that with care, you may end up with a character like Chef Slowik, who is nearly relatable, but goes back on his early motivations in pursuit of a more immoral stance. And it's not as if Slowik is without compassion, but rather it seems as though his compassion is further misplaced in his prejudice. For Margot's whole plotline is that she learns of Slovik's beginnings as a fry cook and realizes that that was the only time he felt happy. So Margot asks to be cooked a cheeseburger as a way to convince him that she is a part of the lower class society and that she doesn't deserve to die. Quick note, when I learned that Anya Taylor-Joy is doing a fake American accent for this movie and is actually English, I completely understood why she says cheeseburger so awkwardly in this scene.
A cheeseburger.
It's a funny little moment. This results in Slowik allowing her to escape since she was pure of the upper class system that oppresses people like him. Except, I didn't think that's what this movie was about. It seemed to clearly be about what happens when an artist's desire dies, not about classism and poverty divides. Why suddenly shift gears on his motivations midway through the movie? It may just be affecting me personally, but I believe this hinders Slovik's character arc a lot. The story is no longer about an oppressed chef, it's now about a prejudiced chef. And prejudice of any kind is hard for an audience to relate to. The main problem, in fact, is that his rationale doesn't seem to support his prejudice whatsoever. It makes it seem in the second half of the movie like he was forced by upper-class society to pursue the deeper art of food, but that's not congruent with his arguments in the first half of the movie, that his passion and drive and desire to create art was snuffed out by bad actors in the upper class taking advantage of his art for profit or personal gain. He shouldn't have become fully prejudiced if his desire is to create art for people to enjoy. It seems incongruous to me. And more importantly, it can upset an audience that had previously found plenty of reasons to connect to the character. The fastest way to alienate audiences from a villain is to have them draw generalizations. Racist warlords, sexist terrorists, classist jerks. Even ageism turns people away from being able to sympathize with an antagonist. When it comes to writing antagonists, sometimes it's okay to make them unlikable or irredeemable. But in the case of the menu, Chef Slovik's redemption falls short due to his incompatible worldview. Had the movie excluded the actor guy, and more importantly, his assistant, Slovik's character arc would have been beautifully executed. And don't get me wrong, those characters were written really well and are very funny at times, but the fact remains, I don't sympathize with Chef Slowik even though I wish I did.
Enjoy.
Well, I'm really starting to feel that poison now, so that's the end of this video. Make sure to subscribe for future film reviews and analyses. Bye-bye.